All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to unpack a really fascinating text called Ascent of Man, which lays out a three-stage model for our journey through life. And it all kicks off with one really deep question.
You know that feeling? The author starts right there, with a question I bet a lot of us have asked ourselves at some point. Why is it that even when things are going okay, we still feel this restlessness in our soul? This nagging sense that something's just off. This one question, right here, is the key to everything we're about to get into.
So how does the text try to answer that big question? Well, it gives us a kind of map, a framework built on three distinct states of existence. So let's follow that map together and see just where it takes us.
Okay, but before we jump into those three main states, we've got to start at the very beginning. The author calls this the foundation. Think of it as the time when the blueprint for our entire life gets drawn up.
This period is called the fase de carregamento, which basically means the loading phase. And that's a perfect way to put it, right? It's like a phase zero. This is our childhood, where everything, our dreams, our fears, the promises people make to us, all those early lessons, it all gets loaded into our system. This becomes the raw material, the stuff we have to work with for the rest of our lives. Now here's something we need to get out on the table right away. The author is really specific that this framework is presented as being exclusive to men. The text actually suggests that for women, it might just serve as an interesting observation. The author's own analogy is like looking at amoebas under a microscope. So just keeping that context in mind as we move forward.
So to really set the stage for the central challenge here, the author goes way back to a foundational myth, pulling this specific verse from Genesis. And this isn't just some random quote. For the author, this is the mythological key. It's what unlocks our understanding of the core struggle that's going to define the whole journey.
So what's the big takeaway here? The author interprets this verse as what they call the curse of work. And we're not just talking about a 9-to-5 job. No, this is much bigger. It's the weight of responsibility, the struggle, the toil of having to make something of yourself and your world. And honestly, this whole journey through the three states, it all comes down to how a person responds to this one fundamental curse.
And that brings us to the first major crossroads in adult life. When you're faced with this so-called curse, two main paths open up. It's a choice, really, between escape and duty.
And this slide lays that choice out perfectly. On one side, you've got dysfunctionalidade. That's the path of escape. It's the eternal adolescent, the one who's always running from responsibility. And then on the other side, you have the vita functional, the path of duty. This is the home sweet home guy, the one who leans in and embraces it.
So let's zoom in on dysfunctionality for a second. According to the author, this path is all about avoiding that curse of work. It's about pretending to be an adult, having the look of a grown-up life, but without taking on any of the real responsibility. The text says this state often involves looking for a mother figure in a partner and using all sorts of distractions, toys the author calls them, to just deny that call to actually grow up.
All right, now let's look at the other path, the vida funcional, or the functional life. This is the stage of the good citizen, right? The person who hears that call to duty and says, okay, I'm in. It's about playing your part in society, building a family, keeping things going, holding up those ideals of stability. This is the life society expects. And you know what? It's the one that usually gets all the applause. But, and this is a huge but, here comes the twist. The author is actually really critical of this life. Even though it looks so successful from the outside, they describe it as an absolute lack of a man's own life, a supreme desert. Wow. The point is, even with all the external signs of success, on the inside, there can be this deep, profound emptiness.
In that inner desert, it doesn't just sit there quietly. Nope. It shows up as constant anxiety, deep frustrations, and this nagging, persistent feeling of just wanting to leave it all behind and never look back. It's this inner turmoil that lights the fire, that creates the hunger for something more. I mean, does any of that hit close to home?
So let's be super clear. The author is not saying the functional life is a bad thing, not at all. It's described as a good, even a necessary job. It's what keeps the wheels of society turning. But, and this is really the whole point, it's not the excellent work. Think of it as a super important stage, but it's not the end of the road.
And that right there leads us to the third and final state. This is the destination that's calling out, even when they're in the middle of that functional life. The author calls it the extraordinary work.
This is the level where that curse is finally transcended. It's not about running from work, and it's not just about doing your duty. It's about finding your true work, the thing that clicks with your innate purpose, the thing that finally fulfills all those dreams that were loaded into you way back in childhood.
The author basically frames this whole thing as the classic hero's journey. It's that deep, mythical call to adventure that's always kind of echoing in the back of your mind. The text says it's the thing that hammers on the head of the guy in the functional stage, constantly reminding him, hey, there's something more out there.
And the rewards for actually taking on this journey? They're pretty profound. The author talks about a life with real meaning. We're talking genuine friendships, the descanso de guerrero, or warrior's rest that comes from real purpose, healing those old childhood wounds, and even getting a totally new perspective on life and death.
Ultimately, the author puts a huge amount of weight on this final stage. It's not just about you feeling fulfilled. No, it's described with this incredibly powerful phrase, the true rescue of this world. The idea here is that men who reach this state are the ones who actually push humanity forward.
All right, so let's pull all this together for a quick recap of the entire framework the author has given us.
So you've got the three states, one after the other. Step 1, disfunccionalidade, which is all about escaping your duty. Step 2, the vida funcional, where you accept and fulfill that duty. And step 3, the trabalho extraordinario, where you finally transcend that duty by finding a much higher purpose.
And there's one last really important detail here. The author makes it very clear that you can't just look at someone's life from the outside and know which state they're in. Someone might look totally functional, have the house, the job, the whole thing, but on the inside, their heart could be stuck in dysfunction. It's an internal thing, a matter of the heart, that really shows you where someone is on this map.
And all of this leaves us with one final big question to think about. Look, whether you buy into this framework completely or not, it pushes us to ask something really profound. When you look at your own life, your own journey, what does it really mean for you to transcend the curse? What would it take to move past just doing your duty and to find your own extraordinary work?